What's up, everybody? Chicago Goon here, bringing another Arsenal talk. Well, we're going back to Wembley for the second straight season and the FA Cup final. Just going to cover the semi-final, maybe a little look into next week's game against Chelsea, which it seems like right now is just we're obviously just playing for second. Um, but on to the FA Cup semi-final. Um, and again, for the second straight, season, we have to go in the extra time. Thank God we didn't have to go into PKs again. Obviously, Reading was really pushing for that in the extra time, probably throughout the second half, and once they nicked that one goal. But going into the game, looking at the stats, it's the FA Cup. You know, you look at stats and you look at how many goals that Reading has conceded throughout the championship season, and you're just looking at all the stats, and just like last year, we're looking at Wigan and their championship side, and we should be able to just roll over them. And it actually looked like that, especially in the first half. We were attacking. We had most of the possession. We didn't really create that many chances, but we were in full control, even defensively. The offsides trap was on just about the entire game between Mertesacker and Kashoni, and then of course Kashoni and Gabriel finishing out the game. And Reading, I mean, that's all they had to them basically was to try to make the most of it and just try to get lucky and get behind. There was a few times where Reading was called offsides when they weren't. So we were kind of lucky in that standpoint. But again, we had most of the possession in the first half, and we just couldn't break them down. It just seemed, watching the game, it was almost looking at a mirror game of the Monaco game, to where a lot of players were just kind of standing still. They weren't coming after the ball. They weren't trying to move. They weren't trying to make runs. The midfield was kind of just, it was mediocre. Especially even having Santi Gazzola in the midfield, it was mediocre. Coughlin did his job, but Santi was just invisible the entire game. I'll probably get into a little bit of that later. But first goal between Ozil and Alexis Sanchez, beautiful pass by Ozil. Just showing his quality, showing his ability to pick out that pass where maybe no one else could notice that darting diagonal run by Alexis Sanchez, and he just read it perfectly, and the pass was perfect. All that Alexis Sanchez had to really do is take a touch or two, get in front, be able to compose himself and just put it in the back of the net, and that's exactly what he did. Our world-class players, in that sequence, showed up, and they did the business for us. Basically the entire game, to be honest with you. Both goals. The second goal even. I don't know if Ozil got credited with the assist there, because he did make the final pass, but Sanchez, had to take a few touches before he did actually put it in on net, and you kind of feel for the goalkeeper a little bit, just because it just went right through his legs, and he was playing well the entire game, and making a few. He made a few saves to really save Reading and keep them in the game, and you kind of felt bad for him, the slightest. But of course, for us, it was good that he made that little mental error and didn't close out the ball, and didn't make that final save to keep him in the game. But again, our world-class players showing up, throughout the entire broadcast. They were kind of ripping Sanchez and Ozil throughout the second half, and saying these guys need to start showing up. These guys need to make their mark in the game. Even though I thought Ozil throughout the entire game was really playing well. Sanchez, again, his work rate. There was plenty of times though that Sanchez just didn't want to get rid of the ball. He was just trying to do too much sometimes. But when you have that type of talent, and when you see some of your teammates just kind of standing around, especially attacking wise, you kind of say, screw it, I'm just going to try to take it on myself. It's kind of like us against the world type thing, and that's what he tried to do a little bit too much of, especially in that second half. But again, our world class players show up and they win us the game. Both goals, both assists were by them with Ozil to Sanchez. Of course, my name on Twitter is Ozil to Sanchez, and it's true to the name. And it was just great to see. All in all, like defensively, we didn't really have too much to worry about. Again, like I said, the offsides trap was on the entire game. Um, Gibbs didn't have the greatest game. The goal that we gave up, he fell asleep on. A lot of people were saying on Twitter that Szczesny, it wasn't Szczesny's fault that that goal went in, but I would have to disagree. When you play a team against a team like Reading, who is, uh, who might have a chance or two on goal throughout the entire game, you expect your goalkeeper to make those saves and to keep those balls out of the net. And he just didn't do it. It was kind of I know it took a deflection. I get it. But at the same time, uh, if you want to get into the side, if you want to be the number one goalkeeper, you have to make those type of saves. You have to keep the ball out. You have to make a little bit better effort than he did. It just seemed like it was just like a lazy attempt, really, to try to keep the ball out. Of course, it had goal line technology and it came into play, but I mean, really, I mean, it is on Szczesny, but again, it's more on Kieran Gibbs because he just fell asleep in the back post again, rather than staying on his guy. I mean, they're running towards Szczesny, and even Gibbs looked back at the Reading player, and he stopped looking at him. When you see a guy and you don't see anybody else on the far post except for one guy, what's the point of keeping the line? There is no point. You need to stay on your guy and make sure he's marked. And he just didn't mark him. And that's one of the faults of Kieran Gibbs and his ability to defend is sometimes, especially in the last final third, especially in the 18-yard box, he falls asleep a lot. And I don't really expect him to play in the final. I expect Monreal to be playing in the final, as he should, because he's just better this year. Kieran Gibbs was better last year. Monreal is just better this year. And so I hope that Monreal gets the nod for the final, because we can't afford that, because we're going to be playing a real team going into the final, whether it's Liverpool or Aston Villa. I know people laugh at Aston Villa being a real team, but it's a BPL team, regardless. So you have to take them seriously. Just like last year, we didn't take Hull City seriously, and we paid for it early in the game. But luckily, we came back and won. But that goal, it should have never happened. You expect a goalkeeper of even Szczesny's class or quality to make that save, and you have to make sure that you make that save, because guess what? You're not going to get any more time if you don't make saves like that, if you can't make saves like that. So going into some of the other players, Aaron Ramsey, how he stayed on the pitch for 120 minutes, I have zero idea. He had a horrid game from start to finish. He had a chance in the closing minutes of regular time to close out the game. He had two chances, actually. One, he just dinked it off. It was like a lazy kick. Dinked it right off the goalkeeper. Took another one where he just tried to slam it as hard as he could and went right off the post. That was his day in a nutshell. He gave the ball away a ton. The experiment of him on the right side just does not work. It was a joke, especially when you bring back Mathieu Debuchy for his first game. That's on Wenger. I'm sorry. For him to start in a game like this, I get it that it's a championship side and we should roll over them. But again, it's the FA Cup. It's not something that you should be taking lightly. And trying to start a player who hasn't played since October, November, somewhere around there, and you're starting him in a FA Cup semifinal. Granted, he is better defensively, obviously, than Bellerin, but at the same time, To play him in that game and then having Aaron Ramsey playing on the right side, who gave him no support whatsoever. Aaron Ramsey did not track back at all throughout that entire game. I mean, it was a headache to watch. Watching him give the ball away, watching him trying to, I don't know what he was doing. There was at times where he was so far out of position from the right side. Sometimes he was in the middle of the park, sometimes he was all the way on the left side of the park. And obviously he had the license to roam when he wanted to, but again, he left Debussy on an island, so many times throughout that game. You had to really feel sorry for Debussy, especially coming back from injury. That Debussy had to work that hard just because he had zero support. Even from Santi. I mean, Santi was completely invisible throughout the entire game. But again, how do you keep Ramsey on that right side in the game throughout the entire game is beyond me. He should have been pulled in the 60th minute. He probably wasn't pulled just because of the fact that Mertesacker went down with an ankle injury, and of course Gabriel took his place. Again, that's kind of like classic Arsenal right there, where we're giving away a substitution because of a freak injury during the game, especially to a defensive or a center half, because you're expecting your center halves to start and finish the game every single time. But it's just shocking of how bad Aaron Ramsey played, and I really don't want to see that ever again, to be honest with you, because we miss that pace on the right side. We miss that ability to, whether it's a Danny Welbeck or even it's a Theo Walcott or whenever the Ox decides to come back. I don't know if he's going to even be coming back this season. We need that pace. We need that guy who's going to even track back a little bit. Theo probably would have tracked back a lot better than Aaron Ramsey did throughout the game, and he did when he finally got on the pitch. But I would have rather had, Olivier Giroud coming in for Aaron Ramsey, taking Ramsey off, putting Welbeck on the right side, and just roll with that for the rest of the game, because we missed that pace. We definitely missed that pace. Reading was not scared of our right side whatsoever, with Debussy coming back from injury, and then with Aaron Ramsey. There's no pace. There's some skill, there's some quality there, but again, when you're when you're trying to ask a fullback to come right back into the side and act like he's been playing for the last 3 or 4 weeks, it just doesn't work out that way. I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you're world class. You need a few games to get your feet back under you and to play well. But again, I don't want to see that kind of lineup ever again, especially against next week. We definitely need that pace against Chelsea. We definitely need that kind of power against Chelsea, against Ivanovic, because Ivanovic, or will it be? No, it'll be Azpilicueta actually. That will be attacking wise, and that we'll have to worry about, and of course Hazard too. So having an Aaron Ramsey on that side who's not even close to being faster than Hazard, he's probably Azpilicueta is probably faster than Aaron Ramsey, so that's going to open us up wide next week if we shell out that same exact lineup. Again, I would rather see Danny Welbeck on there because his work rate is just 10 times better, especially with that pace and power. Of course, like I said, Santi Cazorla, where was he the entire game? He had 2 chances on goal. They were clear-cut chances. He had so much space, so much opportunity to even get it on target. He couldn't even get it on target. Both shots went over the crossbar. Throughout the entire game, Koscielny, Mertesacker, and even Gabriel were throwing their hands to their side because they were looking for someone to pass to, and there was no one to pass to throughout the entire game. Because Coquelin was there, he would try to make himself available, but he was always covered by 1 or 2 guys. And when you see that, that's the job of the extra CM in that midfield, is to help out the DM and to help out the center halves. And Santi just wasn't doing that in the entire game. You could see it throughout the game. Gabriel throwing his hands up in the air. Koscielny, Mertesacker. They were getting pissed because there was no options. There's plenty of times where Ozil had to come all the way back to help out and get the ball and get a touch on the ball and get the passing sequence going so that we can attack. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. that Santi Cazorla played that, he played just as bad as Aaron Ramsey. But you never saw it because he was invisible throughout the entire game. He just didn't help out enough. And that's the job of the CM, is to help out, not only defensively, but attacking wise. It got a little bit better once Aaron Ramsey switched over to the DM. I was scared shitless, to be honest with you, because he was pushing too far forward. Santi was pushing too far forward. And there was a couple times where Reading was able to go on the counterattack. Luckily we had the defensive mind to stop it when we could. Again, having Coughlin being taken out of the game, it was mind blowing, to be honest with you, of why Coughlin was taken out of the game and Aaron Ramsey stayed on the pitch. It just didn't make any sense to me. I know we're trying to make a goal, but even if we're going into, we still need that defensive player out there, because Santi wasn't doing anything. Santi wasn't doing anything to really help out, attacking wise and defensively. So it was just a headache. The substitutions were just all wrong today. They were right on the players that were brought in, but the players that were taken out, like Danny Welbeck, who had plenty of energy because he really didn't do much. They weren't trying to get him into the game whatsoever, and he got a few touches on the ball. That was about it. They weren't trying to really pick him out. They weren't really trying to get him into the attack that much. Is that Danny Welbeck's fault, or is it the player's fault? You can make a case for each. But again, he didn't really waste that much energy throughout the entire game. But he gets taken out for Olivier Giroud when Aaron Ramsey should have been taken out. He should have been the first one taken out. And then after that, you bring on Theo Walcott, or even if you stay on that path, you take maybe a Santi off for Fulmini or something. But it was just kind of like a headache of what Wenger's tactics and what he was trying to do. It just didn't make any sense to me, of taking out Welbeck and then putting on Giroud and then taking off Coughlin for Theo. Just didn't make any sense to me. It really didn't. There's two opportunities where Ramsey should have been taken out and he wasn't. So our midfield was pretty dreadful, other than like Ozil and Sanchez. They were just doing most of the work today. Gibbs had a couple of opportunities. He made a couple great passes, a couple good crosses into the box. But attacking wise, he was decent. But defensive wise, he just wasn't. Koscielny and Gabriel, they played well. Gabriel had a header on goal that the goalkeeper had to make a fingertip save. We were going near post on all of our corners. Looked like we had good opportunities to go near post, and we had a couple chances on goal throughout the game, but we just couldn't get any of them in. The goalkeeper for Reading, he was pretty short of amazing, I guess. But again, he just made that one critical error late in the game to get us the win. But all in all, it's just going to be one of those games where, by next season, we won't even remember it. Sometimes playing against these championship sides, they can, mentally, it can be, you're going into the game, they're thinking it's a championship side, we're going to roll over them. So mentally, you're already psyching yourself out. You're already trying to play relaxed. Trying to play like, oh, we can do anything we want and it's not going to be any type of problem. But again, we can't have that mentality. It was, for the last several months, we've had that mentality going into games that we're the better side and we're going to show why we're the better side. We've shown that throughout these last 8 games. This is our ninth or 10th straight win. And throughout those games, and throughout even before that, minus the Monaco game at the Emirates, we were going into games confident. We were going into games saying we are the better side and we're going to show it. This game we didn't. We psyched ourselves out because, quote unquote, they're a championship side. We can't do that. So it almost benefits us going into the final that we're either going to be playing a Liverpool side or an Aston Villa side, which is great. We're going to be the final game of the season. We're going to be the final trophy of the season, and hopefully the mentality gets better coming out of this game, because the mentality has to be better for next week against Chelsea. Yeah, it's an important game, obviously. Um, it's a game that we should win, just because of Chelsea's form right now is not exactly the best. It could put us, I believe it could put us with a game in hand and 4 points clear of Manchester United. It'll put us still, I think, about 5 points clear of Manchester City. If we win, we can win, especially with our form in the BPL and the way we're playing. But again, we can't play Aaron Ramsey on that right side anymore. It just doesn't work, especially when we're playing against the Chelsea side. It might work against a Burnley side, or even, I mean, you could say it worked against, some shitty sides. But again, you're looking at Reading, and it just didn't work. So what's going to happen against the Chelsea side? You just can't, you can't do that. You need as much pace and power and skill out there as possible. You need dangerous players. And Aaron Ramsey, he's just so dangerous as a CM rather than a winger. It just, but again, can you drop Santi Cazorla with his recent form? I mean, Santi, this was probably his worst game since probably, the Monaco game. You can even go all the way back to like early December, late November, of when he had this poor of a game. So can you give Santi a pass? But again, do you drop Santi for Aaron Ramsey, because Aaron Ramsey is just so good at that CM spot? That's the juggling act that Arsene Wenger has to go through week after week, and who he's going to play, who he's going to sit. He has so many options now. Everybody coming back from injury. I think the only person that's really out now is the Ox. It seems like Mertesacker might be out, because when you have to leave the game with an ankle injury, usually that's at least a couple weeks. So it looks like Gabriel is going to get a run of games. He's going to be playing against Chelsea, hopefully, and then the rest of the season. I mean, again, if we can win this game, we kind of cement ourselves into that second spot. Because even if we go to Manchester United and happen to lose, I mean, we have Hull City, Swansea City, Sunderland, and West Brom left. That's it. I mean, and then you have the FA Cup final on the 30th of May. But it's just, I mean, you just kind of laugh at it. If we can win this game and come out with 3 points, that just boosts our confidence. That considering right now that we are the best team in the BPL. Chelsea might be winning the title. They might lift the title at the end of the season, but I think overall, especially in the second half of the season, we've just been the better side than Chelsea, and we should go out there and prove it, regardless. Even thinking that second place and even third place is solidified right now. Gotta have that mindset, regardless of it's the last game of the season or whatnot. You're playing against the Chelsea side. You're playing against one of the better sides in the BPL, quote unquote, in the world. It's a good confidence boost if you can go in there and just win, especially with Arsene Wenger's record against Jose Mourinho. If we can win, these guys should be up for it, not only for themselves but for Arsene Wenger to finally get a win against that fucking prick, against that complaining prick, the stupid diving rent boys, and just put one on them. It would be nice to see. It would just be nice to see, because the way Chelsea played at home today or yesterday, when you're going to be listening to this, they pretty much parked the bus in their own stadium. I mean, they scored that goal and they pretty much parked the bus throughout the second half. So that's what they're going to probably be doing at the Emirates next weekend. So let's take it to them. Fuck them. We have Coughlin now, who played a great game again. We have Coughlin to have that coverage. Let's just go after it. We should. And we'll have a week rest. It's not until Sunday, the game against Chelsea, which is nice. We'll have a full week off, a full week to really think, train, and to get our minds set back on the BPL and back on what's important and finishing, in that second spot to gain that confidence for next year, hopefully, and gain that confidence for the rest of the season and even in going into the FA Cup final. It's going to be pretty interesting to, hopefully, I'll be able to get up early enough and watch that Liverpool Aston Villa game because I believe it's tomorrow or today when you'll be listening to this. So that's going to be kind of interesting. It's going to be kind of interesting to see what Tim Sherwood does, if he parks the bus or if he just goes after it. Hopefully he just goes after it because Benteke's just been on fire lately. Aston Villa has been playing pretty well over the last, several, since Tim Sherwood has basically taken over, and they have a little new confidence boost and a little more of a spark in their step, I guess you can say. So it'll be pretty interesting. It'll be a pretty interesting game, seeing if who plays for Liverpool, who doesn't play for Liverpool, just because it just seems like they're ever switching for their roster. But yeah. This will probably be it. This will probably be the end of it at the episode, and hopefully we'll get 3 points. Hopefully we'll beat Chelsea next week, and just keep on pressing on. Let's finish out the season strong, and let's finish out the season to, start building some bridges for next year, and start building some confidence for next year that we can win this league, and we can push on and even win the league and even win the FA Cup again. It'll just be a great ending to another season. It'll be, people still don't think it's progress. That's just another episode for another day. That's, not everybody can win the league every single year. That's why there's 20 teams. That's why the season's always been played.